This is our first full year of being YouTubers, and we've uploaded over 100 shorts.
Chances are you've missed most of them, so here's 20 minutes of Pokémon Facts and Secrets all in one place.
And subscribe if you haven't already.
You can choose a secret legendary Pokémon at the start of Pokémon Fire Red and Leaf Green. After defeating the Elite Four, obtaining the National Pokédex, and retrieving both the Ruby and Sapphire from the Savvy Islands, a certain legendary beast from another region decides it's time to test your abilities as a trainer.
Either Raikou, Entei, or Suicune will begin to roam the Kanto region in their usual fashion. But one thing you may have never noticed is that the beast that appears in your game is always super effective against the starter Pokémon that you chose.
Arm yourself with Max Repels and the level 49 Pokémon with the ability to trap opponents, and you can make hunting these elusive creatures a bit easier. But beware, as a bug in this generation causes them to disappear forever if they roar you away.
This is the reason why shiny Pokémon shine. These differently coloured Pokémon have been a staple of the franchise now for over 2 decades, bringing a sense of pride to those that hunt them down.
But have you ever considered the reason as to why they sparkle, instead of just existing in their ultimate colors? It all comes down to the fact that the original Pokémon Gold and Silver, although being designed for Game Boy Color, were also fully compatible with the original Game Boy.
And to account for its monochromatic screen, Game Freak was smart enough to add this special effect to let players know that they had encountered a special Pokémon. This NPC has been trying to tell us a secret for 2 decades, but we all ignored him. Game corners were a staple of the earlier games, where you could play the odds for a chance to win awesome TMs and rare Pokémon courtesy of Team Rocket.
But the Goldenrod City Game Corner in Johto holds a secret. When talking to this gambler, he'll mention that his machine seems to pay out more often than all the others. And this isn't just his imagination.
Every slot machine has a 1 in 6 chance to enter a mode with enhanced odds, but this gambler's machine will always have an increased chance of winning.
He would rarely leave his post, but if you returned during the early hours of the day, you'd actually find an opportunity to take advantage of this super slot machine.
You can find secret interactions with Pikachu hidden in Pokemon Yellow. This title was the first to give you the opportunity to check your Pokemon's feelings, and tucked away were a few rare moments where Pikachu would perform a special action.
Losing the first battle against your rival would cause Pikachu to despise you, displaying a skull as it turns its back on you.
Catching a Pokemon would cause Pikachu to cheer you on, and after hearing Jigglypuff's song in Pewter City, it would fall fast asleep. And while fishing, it would be wearing a bucket as a hat.
You could see it shake with fear in the Pokemon Tower, and whenever Pikachu was poisoned or burnt, it will shudder with a sad look on its face.
Check it right after teaching it Thunderbolt or Thunder, and it would grant you a first-hand demonstration that could even briefly light up the darkest caves. But try to use a Thunderstone on it and you'd be met with a look of disgust.
This 20-year-old secret event was completely transformed in this Pokémon remake. It's been 2 whole decades since the Aurora ticket was officially given out to players for a limited time in 2004.
And those lucky enough to receive the ticket could find themselves on the shore of Birth Island, where they could encounter the mysterious space invader Deoxys in a rather simple event.
But it seems as though Game Freak thought this concept was too interesting not to expand on, creating an entirely new story focused on the revival of the planet's protector Rayquaza, as only its megaform can save the Earth from a deadly meteor inhabited by the mythical Pokémon Deoxys.
These exclusive moves could only be obtained on a handful of rare event Pokémon. The move Happy Hour has the unique effect of doubling the prize money won from any battle. This effect can also be stacked with Payday and the Amulet Coin to quadruple your boosted winnings.
Celebrate sees a gift emerging from the sky before your Pokemon emerges to congratulate you on your special day. Unfortunately, this move has no effect in battle, but does have a use in Pokemon contests.
One of the rarest Pokemon moves, Hold Hands, only given to 3 species of Pokemon, could only be used in a double or triple battle, with the user taking the hand of its target, apparently making them very happy but not doing much else.
And the only damaging event move, Hold Back, is essentially just false swipe by another name, not even changing the move's type, accuracy or power, leaving Pokemon with 1 HP as a way to help you catch them.
This hidden mechanic is more than just an evolution method. The Invisible Happiness stat, best known for evolving specific Pokemon and powering up certain moves, actually began its life in Pokemon Yellow. Although, the only thing improving Pikachu's friendship would get you is a free Bulbasaur.
Since then, the friendship level of your Pokemon has been expanded to earn special ribbons, grant you access to powerful signature moves only taught via a tutor, and from the Pokemon Let's Go games onward, even boost your odds of getting critical hits and evading life-threatening attacks.
There are even some secret events, like the old man waiting in the water labyrinth who'll hand you a Togepi egg if you can prove the strength of the bond with your Pokémon. Or access to the Nameless Cavern, an area housing the legendary Lake Trio, but only if your party contains 3 or more Pokémon with maximum happiness.
In fact, in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver, your partner Pokemon would assist you while fishing, increasing your odds of landing a catch. This pair of legendary Pokemon made it to a secret location in Generation 3. The Celebi Islands were home to a plethora of secrets, and through limited Nintendo-sanctioned events, you could have obtained the Mystic Ticket, granting you passage to Naval Rock.
Extending far above and below the sea, the legendary Pokémon Ho-Oh and Lugia could both be found at level 70, roosting far from their homes in the Johto region.
The cave was coloured gold or silver depending on which Gen 3 game you were travelling from, as a possible reference to their native titles. And Ho-Oh's signature item, the Sacred Ash, could also be obtained by checking its resting spot after catching or defeating it.
You can find hidden items on the overworld that even the item finder struggles to locate, holding special relevance to the places they are found. In Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green, exploring the Viridian City Gym after Giovanni makes his escape reveals a macho brace where he once stood, fitting for the crime boss obsessed with power.
After ridding the Pokemon Tower of Team Rocket, you can return to the top floor to find a Soothe Bell where Mr. Fuji, the kind old man who cares for abandoned Pokemon, was located. And after waking Snorlax, its missing leftovers it's never seen without can be found where it was taking a nap.
But the best Easter egg resides in Pokemon Gold and Silver. The Cerulean Cave may have been sealed, but Mewtwo's presence lingers as searching the lake near the cave uncovers its signature Berserk gene, an item that would boost your attack by 2 stages and confuse the holder at the start of battle. This is the hardest Pokemon to obtain in the history of Pokemon. Pokemon Home is a service allowing seamless transfer and storage of Pokemon between compatible games.
But aside from the ability to move Pokemon, you can also unlock special prizes for reaching specific goals. Transferring a Pokemon from Scarlet or Violet for the first time awards you a Paldean starter with its hidden ability, and the first time you transfer a Pokemon from Pokemon Go, you'll receive the mythical Pokemon Melmetal, capable of Gigantamaxing in Sword and Shield.
But the ultimate prize is this unique Pokeball-colored Magearna, to this day only available through Pokemon Home. And to claim it, you simply transfer the entire National Pokédex into Pokemon Home, and you would have 1 month in order to accept this gift or lose it forever.
This original form of Magearna also comes with its own amazing shiny form based off of an Ultra Ball, but has still never seen an official distribution since the Pokemon's reveal in 2016. You needed extreme luck in order to see these Pokemon moves. In Generation 1, Kadabra was unable to learn its own signature move despite being programmed into the game, meaning the only way to see Kinesis in Red and Blue was by randomly accessing it via Metronome.
Since no Pokemon learned Razor Wind via Level Up in Generation 2 and it only existed as a TM in the prior games, the only way to see this move in Gold and Silver was if a Pokemon from the first generation traveled through time already knowing it.
The unique move Burn Up that strips Pokemon of its fire typing after use cannot be learned by any of the current Pokemon in Gen 9, yet still exists and is also accessible by Metronome.
In fact, checking a fire Pokemon that was stripped of its typing would crash the game entirely, until it was patched as of the latest DLC.
Generation 3 added abilities to Pokemon that not only brought a wave of new strategies in battle, but secretly outside as well.
It turns out that Gyarados' face isn't just for show, and when Pokemon with the Intimidate ability stand at the front of your party, it lowers the rate of wild encounters. Great if you're low on repels.
Conversely, abilities like No Guard, Arena Trap and Illuminate put a target on your back, which may seem like a detriment at first, but worthwhile for those who hunt full odds shiny Pokemon.
If you have a thirst for battle, then you'd like to know that the Lightning Rod ability has the secondary effect of doubling the amount of match calls you receive from your Pokénap in Pokemon Emerald.
It's no secret any longer that using Cut outside of battle allows you to clear a path through the tall grass, but quite possibly the best secret effect belongs to Hyper Cutter, which allows Pokemon like Krabby to mow down patches of grass twice the size as usual.
This Pokemon holds 2 separate records for being absolutely terrible. Being both grass and bug type, Paras and Parasect suffer from 2 nasty 4x weaknesses to fire and flying type moves.
But in the first generation, the bug type actually had an extra weakness to poison, meaning these shroomy Pokemon held the distinction of having not 2, but 3 quadruple weaknesses.
This isn't all, as in Generation 4 it was given Dry Skin as an ability, making fire type attacks do 1.25 times more damage, effectively making it the only Pokemon to ever be 5 times weak to another type. This Pokemon is practically impossible to catch. The original Pokemon Pinball merged frantic pinball gameplay with the addictive nature of Pokemon collection in a one-of-a-kind cartridge that housed its own Rumble Pack.
Being one of the most challenging Pokédexes to complete due to the difficulty in first finding, catching, and then evolving Pokemon, it took true dedication and skill to capture all 150 Pokemon.
But in order to even encounter the 151st, you would have to first defeat every bonus stage of the table you're on twice before traveling across each board until you reach the Indigo Plateau, where you would only then be granted a measly 2% chance of engaging the mythical Pokemon Mew.
It is here where the cruel reality of the situation sets in, as no matter how many times you hit Mew, its catch counter won't even begin to budge. Although practically impossible, you'll be surprised to know this Mew is actually catchable. It just requires you to hit it a modest 1024 times within a 3-minute time limit.
They were, however, nice enough to add it to your Pokédex, even if it ran away. You can get a reward for catching 999 Pokemon in Diamond and Pearl, even though the maximum amount of PC storage is limited to 540. Pokemon Ranch on the Nintendo Wii was an accessory that allowed you to store Pokemon from Diamond and Pearl, and the more Pokemon you stored, the more your ranch would expand, unlocking prizes and special events.
Depositing every form of Unknown would cause them to form a keyboard, and if you dropped off the stars of Pokemon Dash, they would all participate in a race. And this is just the tip of the event iceberg.
Upon reaching the pinnacle of Pokemon storage at 999 Pokemon, Haley will ask you for a Pokemon egg. Bring one to her and she'll offer you a trade for her elusive Ranch Mew.
This Mew comes from a lovely place and no synthesis, which is probably a reference to the ranch's green pastures. This is the only way to obtain this shiny mythical Pokemon. In a special mission, now only accessible in the original Pokemon Ranger, it was possible to find and retrieve a mysterious blue egg along the shoreline of Summerland.
After completing the mission, you would find that this unique Pokemon egg could be sent to your mainline Pokemon title, and hatching it would reveal the mythical Pokemon Manaphy. This could only be done once per cartridge, and not even resetting your save file would allow you to re-attempt the event.
As with most mythical Pokemon, this Manaphy is completely shiny locked, at least on the game the egg was first received. But due to an oversight, trading the Manaphy egg to another Pokemon game would detach its personality value from the trainer ID, granting it the opportunity to hatch as a shiny.
To this day, it's still the only way to hunt for a legitimate shiny Manaphy, and with Pokemon Bank days numbered, it may soon be lost forever. You can obtain Pokemon you were never meant to catch in Pokemon Red and Blue. There are a few unique instances in the first generation where sprites of Pokemon that were never meant to be obtained can be seen and encountered.
But through clever manipulation of the game's code with the Ditto glitch, you can encounter all of these strange enemies and even catch them. These glitchy Pokemon have the unique ability to learn the TMs of any Pokemon you look up in the Pokédex.
But when trading them into a Generation 2 game, you'd be even more surprised to find out what they'd become, with the Aerodactyl skeleton becoming a Tyranitar and the Lavender Town Ghost transforming into none other than the legendary Pokemon Lugia. This Pokemon is hiding more than just the entrance to a gym. One of Generation 3's more memorable moments had to be using the Deviant scope to expose pesky Kecleon, blocking our progress. But there were actually a few more of these stealthy pests hidden throughout the game.
Additional Kecleon could be found in a few odd locations, like behind Registeel's resting place. But it's in the remakes of Ruby and Sapphire where they made things a bit more interesting, as Game Freak decided to add this guy that lurks in a women's hot spring.
But more importantly, after beating the Delta episode, this Kecleon could be found at the Moss Deep Space Center. And this Kecleon is special, as it has access to its rare and powerful hidden ability, Protean. Your shiny Pokemon were ruined in Pokemon Colosseum. This spin-off title for the Nintendo GameCube introduced us to a new way of playing Pokemon, but its unique method of snagging the opponent's Pokemon caused absolute havoc for shiny hunters.
Shiny Pokemon could only be verified after catching them during your first encounter with it. And during a rematch, it was actually possible for the opponent's Pokemon to appear as a shiny, only for you to find out that it was a standard Pokemon after catching it.
2, 3, yes! Dang it, it's not a shiny crap.
And that's not all, as a large portion of the Pokemon's shiny colors are completely wrong.
What the heck?
although we do have to admit some of them look pretty cool. It took 17 years to see this event in Pokemon Crystal.
The mobile system, GB, was a short-lived service in Japan that granted Nintendo's Game Boy system online capabilities by connecting to a mobile phone with a special link cable.
And if you were lucky enough to own one of these devices, then you would have had access to not only a bunch of extra content, but a very special event that we in the West wouldn't get to see until almost 2 decades after Crystal's original release.
If the player had obtained all 16 badges and completed the quizzes and minigames in the online exclusive trade corner, the attendant would reward the player with the rare and mysterious GS Ball.
After taking the GS Ball to Kurt the Pokeball Master for inspection, he would alert you to a disturbance in the nearby Ilex Forest and ask you to investigate, upon which you would encounter the mythical Pokemon Celebi for the first time.
Rumors of this Pokemon spread through playgrounds outside of Japan, but no official event ever came. That is, until Pokemon Crystal's re-release on the 3DS finally granted us with the gift of the GS Ball after defeating the Elite Four and becoming Kanto's champion.
This hold item gives a basic Pokemon legendary level stats. When hold items were introduced in Generation 2, a lucky few were graced with unique ones that granted them special buffs.
And the Thick Club stands out as one of the most powerful. Incredibly rare, with only a 2% chance of finding it on a wild Cubone or Marowak. It doubled the attack of the Cubone family, taking it to astronomical heights.
With a single Swords Dance, it would hit the maximum attack cap at 999, being capable of one-shotting any opponent.
The only thing that keeps it in check is its speed, but paired with the right Pokemon and it can sweep an entire team in the blink of an eye. The biggest mystery in Pokemon has finally been solved. Youngster Joey is infamous for his unrelenting phone calls, asking us to rematch his Rattata that apparently ranks among the top percentage of the species.
Well, with the power of the Game Shark, we think it's about time to put this rumor to rest. As it turns out, Joey's Rattata is pretty average, with its IVs falling squarely in the middle of what was possible during Gen 2.
But what if the developers fixed this clear oversight in Gen 2's remakes? Well, it seems like Game Freak decided to get in on the joke this time around, as Joey's Rattata has literally 0 IVs or EVs, meaning it couldn't be any worse if it tried.
Only 20 lucky people were able to get the first ever event Pokemon distributed to the public.
Hosted by the Japanese magazine CoroCoro, a promotion called the Legendary Pokemon Offer was made as a prize draw, where winning players would send in their copy of Pokemon Red or Green to Game Freak to receive this one-of-a-kind Pokemon.
This Pokemon was coded by Mr. Shigeki Morimoto himself on his own PC, and then traded to the winner's cartridges using a regular link cable. More than 78,000 players had applied, but only 20 individuals were selected as winners to receive the first ever mythical Pokemon, Mew.
According to Bulbapedia, this specific legendary offer Mew was level 5 and only knew the move Pound, with CoroCoro as its original trainer. A cartridge containing an authentic CoroCoro Mew today could be priceless.
But the only way one could have survived the last 27 years is if someone had the foresight to trade their Mew to another copy and replace the battery before it died.
You can catch a legendary Pokemon before getting your first gym badge in Pokemon Red and Blue. All you need is a level 8 Pokemon at the end of your party with a specific number of PP left in its moves.
By abusing the save feature, you can sneak past this NPC that usually blocks the exit to Pewter City. Then by talking to him from the opposite side, you'll suddenly find yourself capable of walking through the walls. Make your way to Route 24 where you'll snag an Abra.
Using its ability to teleport, you can return to the Pokemon Center in Pewter City, where you'll trigger the ability to walk through walls again and make your way to the power plant.
Now with a little bit of luck, you can take on the entire Kanto region, accompanied by the legendary Thunder Pokemon Zapdos. You can outsmart this super nerd and steal his fossil by using this strategy. The Brock through walls glitch discovered in Pokemon Red and Blue would allow you to walk over mountains and oceans, allowing you to pull off some seriously unique feats.
It's handy enough being able to walk over the entirety of Mount Moon, but if you were to enter through the exit, you would find that both the Helix and Dome fossil lay there for you to collect.
And if you were quick enough, you could swipe both fossils to revive at the Cinnabar lab later in the game. Just make sure you enter the right cave.
This is one of the hardest challenges in Pokemon Heart Gold and Soul Silver.
When exploring the tall grass with your trusty Pokemon, there's a chance they'll uncover rare items after interacting with them.
Suddenly, your Pokemon will start dancing, revealing a shiny leaf. And now, it sits mysteriously on the Pokemon status screen.
When showing the shiny leaf to a friend in New Barktown, they'll share the legend of these leaves, urging you to collect 4 more.
But it's not a walk in the park. Your Pokémon can only find them in specific locations depending on their nature. And the more leaves you collect, the tougher it gets.
Once a Pokemon gathers all 5 shiny leaves and you return to your friend, you'll earn a charming certificate, raising your trainer card level.
As an extra bonus, your friend will fashion the shiny leaves into a leaf crown.
Yoink.
Unfortunately though, the crown is an exclusive addition to your Pokemon status screen, and not a visible accessory on your Pokemon.
The most powerful legendary Pokemon in Gen 2 had one glaring fault. The Rainbow Wing and Silver Wing were key items that granted you access to the top of the Tin Tower and the depths of the Whirl Islands to encounter the legendary Pokemon Ho-Oh and Lugia.
Depending on which game you owned, you would first encounter the version-exclusive Pokémon at level 40, before gaining access to the latter at a whopping level 70.
But, due to their high levels, it meant that they had lost their iconic signature moves, Aeroblast and Sacred Fire, and this was during a time when move relearning didn't exist in any form, meaning they were lost forever.
Even worse, in Pokémon Crystal, both Pokémon could be found at level 60, meaning neither of them had access to their signature moves.